What's up, geniuses? Welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Rob Markman. Now, today's guest is the first ever winner of the Netflix show, Rhythm and Flow. All right, he's known for his wordplay, his storytelling, his melody. He does it in Spanish, too. It's an introduction for a lot of people, but actually he's been doing this for a long time. His roots in this music runs deep. He just released his latest album, Black Habits. I want to welcome Inglewood's own, Super Good.
Hey, thank you for having me. Yes, sir.
Man, thank you for coming, man. How you doing today?
Man, I'm doing well.
Right.
Doing well, having a blessed day.
Okay.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I've been really looking forward to this interview, to this moment. You've done Verified a couple of times with Genius, with our boy Andres out there.
Andres, my man.
Yeah,
Shout out to
man.
him.
So he speaks really good of you, really highly. And I think your art and your work speaks for itself. So I was like, it'll be dope to chop it up and kind of dissect what's going on.
Absolutely, and I'm here for it, man.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's what's up. All right. So, for most people, right, your introduction came from Rhythm and Flow is when you landed on a lot of people's radars. But music has been a part of you, and you've been on this musical journey for a long time, and you come from a real musical family. We're going to get into that a bit.
Yeah.
I'm start comparing y'all to the Jacksons because I don't know nobody in your family who don't do music.
Hey, man, that's a high compliment, man. So,
when did you first realize that you wanted to be a musician, though, man? When did that first materialize for you?
because it was in the home, it was very early, So mom started teaching us music at like 3, 4, and 5. So by the time I was 6 years old, I was like, oh, I want to play the piano, And that was first. That was before I was like, I want to rap, produce, all of that. And it was just as I continued to be exposed to the different elements of creating music, I just wanted to do some of all of it. So at 10 years old, my uncle took me to his house and he had a studio set up in his house. And I saw him make music right there and then, transfer it to tape. And then I was like, I want to do that, So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a producer. I started saying that at 10. And in elementary, they always saying like, "What you want to be? A firefighter?" You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I'm in elementary like a producer, and they're like, "What is that?" So,
Wow.
but it started that early because the people in my family did it. So, and then by the time I started paying attention to the music game, and I saw the Puffies, and I saw the Master P's, and I was like, okay, I wanna run an independent label, and that's where probably in like 2004, we started our own company, and it was me and my family who kind of just, we built our own studio, converted my parents' garage into a studio, and from that, got signed to a publishing deal, and we're writing songs for other major artists, and then, it was on from there.
So this is Woodworks.
This is Woodworks,
that
yes.
you're talking about. So Woodworks is it was you, your brother Sir.
Yeah.
Everybody knows your brother Sir.
Yeah.
Your other brother Davion.
Yeah.
Your cousin, part of Woodworks also, Tiffany.
Tiffany Goucher.
Yeah. And she's worked on her own also with Terrace Martin and Layla Hathaway and stuff like that. You guys was really writing songs. Like 2009, you wrote a single for Jaheim. Never.
I did. I actually wrote it in 2000, I want to say 4 or 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I wrote it when I was a student at UCLA. So I was sneaking into practice rooms. I wasn't a music major. I majored in Spanish. So I didn't really have access to the music room, but I would just go walk through the hallway because it's just like practice room after practice room. And most of them are locked, but it's always one with probably the old busted piano that they leave unlocked. And I would just go in there and shed and write and whatnot. And so that's where that came from. And then it was years later that, it got picked up and recorded and did what it did, and surprised all of us, So, but yeah, that happened around that time.
That's dope. So being behind the scenes as a writer and a producer, did you always have dreams of being in the forefront? Was that always your goal or because 10 years old, I want to be a producer.
Right.
You accomplished that, man.
Right.
You writing and producer for Jaheim. Jaheim, legendary, well-respected R&B singer. And I think it was like the first single off of that album.
Making
that he
of a
dropped.
Man.
Yeah.
It was really the only single off of that album. And the album did gold. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if there were other singles, they didn't make as much noise as that song did. But yeah, I used to look up to all the reason I wanted to be a producer primarily is because I followed producers, the Dark Childs, the Timbalands, the Battle Cats, And to me, that always seemed like the mastermind, you know what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
behind the music.
Mm-hmm.
And so to answer your question, it wasn't so much that I started off being like, oh, I want to be the one in the forefront. Like to keep it 100, fame isn't something that I really aspired to have, but it was more so ownership that was like, okay, I think after we play songs with major artists and then we didn't always get those calls to go back in when they're working again,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, we're still at somebody's mercy or at the mercy of whoever's deciding what's going to be placed. And so I was like, you know what, if we put out our own music, we decide what gets put on it. You know what I'm saying? So that's when we kind of shifted directions from writing for other people to be like, all right, we're going to start releasing our own. And Sir took it and ran with it. So.
Right. Oh, yeah, boy, did he.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did the show come about? How did Rhythm and Flow? Because you built a reputation for yourself,
Yeah.
within the industry, like, and you have credits under your belt, and you have work and real tangible things to show for your work under your belt, and there's also a community in LA.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned Terrace Martin earlier. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you're running in and out of studios, and you're running into guys that are
Absolutely.
bubbling at the same time. How did the show come about, man?
Yeah. So so we just released Black Habits, right?
Mhm.
Black Habits as a project was probably at least 50% done before the opportunity to be on Rhythm and Flow came about. So I had been strategizing with my team. Like at the time I had like 7,000 followers, right?
Mhm.
On Instagram and a couple hundred on YouTube, and it was like I had been in this place where I knew the quality of the music was high, but the movement, I felt like we needed it at a higher platform. So we had strategized on how to organically grow that following before we dropped the project,
Mhm.
because we knew it was a body of work that deserved to be heard. So what we decided to do was do a series, a promotional series called Run the Subtitles, where we just did freestyles in English and Spanish over popular beats, explosive or next episode, stuff that as soon as it dropped, people would understand, people would, recognize and be like, okay. And then, but then the twist to it or the hook to it was that, when I'm rapping in English, I got Spanish subtitles. When I'm rapping in Spanish, I got English subtitles.
Mm.
So it caught wind, Jill Scott saw one and was like, this is crazy, reposted it. Tyrese saw it, reposted it, like, what did I just see? Like, this dude's crazy. DJ Battlecat posted it. And then, so it was when DJ Battlecat posted it that some of the producers who were at the time looking for talent for the show saw what I was doing and was like, it would be super dope if he did exactly that on the show. So they reached out to me and said, look, fill out this application, go on this audition in front of not the judges on television, but the producers, so that you can have an opportunity in front of the judges, Chance, T.I, Cardi, and then Snoop. It wasn't until that first day that I realized Snoop was there, and of course I had to go through the same process as everybody else. But, they were like, look, if you do what it is that we saw you do on your campaign, we imagine that you would go far in this. And, right before that first day we filmed, I was like, man, I don't know what this is. There's no precedent set. I don't know what the producer's intentions are. And then when they send the contract over, the plus side of it was you just win a cash prize. You're not locked into a contract.
And you being about your business early and thinking about ownership at a young age,
Mhm.
that's important to you right there. That stands out.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I don't have to get committed to some crazy ass contract. There is a cash prize. Of course, there's a certain amount of visibility from being on Netflix.
Sure.
And then I also considered that, with these judges being active artists, perhaps with their reputation on the line, they would defend what they felt like was the best quality artist, So I felt like I had a chance, like Chance would somehow defend, like, okay, the lyrics have depth to them and have real meaning. T.I would be able to say, okay, I could sense authenticity when I see it. Cardi would be able to be like, oh, when he rap in Spanish, he's for real. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like I could appeal to the judges. On the negative side, we were like, we don't know what the producers want out of this show. If they're looking for a young artist, if they're like, We don't know if it's going to be more reality TV than it is performance and documentary moments. And so it's still read, the contract still read standard reality TV language where anything you use can be used on the show,
Right.
whether or not it reflects, and it's verbatim, whether or not it reflects poorly on your artistry. So I was like, man, last thing we need is a bad moment in front of the whole world
Right.
because we got a great project. So I actually called the producers the day before and was like, we not gonna do it, you know, and they were like, hold on, I'm gonna call you right back. They called a couple people and then called back like, please reconsider. Like, I get what you're saying, but there's no boogeyman. Like, do it. Like, if whatever you give us, this is my friend, you know, Bianca Bibbs. She said verbatim, whatever you give us is what we're gonna use. Nobody's trying to manipulate your moments into something else. So that's when, you know, I talked to my team again. We had that powwow, and we were like, all right, we're gonna go in strategically, focus on giving them killer performances. Any moment that's not that, we falling back, you know, stand in the cut, you know, so that when we do show up, it's meaningful.
Right.
You know, so that's how we approach
That's
it.
dope. That's dope presence of mind. And you know, I think a good lesson for young artists who believe in, because the attraction is big,
Yeah.
especially when you're looking to, like you said, you had quality music that you believed in. You didn't have such a big audience.
Right.
When you're looking to grow your audience, that's a major way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But at what cost? So to have that presence of mind, nah, man, I tip my hat to that. Bravo.
Thank you.
What were you feeling? I know as the show started progressing on, like people started recognizing you, right? Like you started seeing, yo, man, he looks like, it started with like, yo, he looked like Sir. Yo,
Right.
nah, that's his brother. Yo, I seen them that perform.
Right.
What was that something that you were trying to hide from the show? Like what was or was it just you trying to tell your story? Like what were you feeling when people started piecing together, like again, how deep your roots really run?
Right. I think what I was doing on the show or what I do in my artistry, it doesn't necessarily require the Sir plug. You know, I think it's a dope moment that we're now in this project giving, you know, we tapping into it like, all right, now let's tell you the brother story on our terms, not so much like, you know, sir, I need a plug from you or I need you to build me up. Now it's a moment where it's mutually beneficial, you know, so it was very intentional to not like lead with that. Like I could have walked up first episode and be like, what's up, my name D Smoke and I'm Sir's brother and I'm about to perform for y'all. Like that shit would have been whack, you know what I'm saying? So and we weren't that way as kids, you know. It was always, because we're competitive, it's always, okay, this is my lane. Oh, you gonna do that? All right, I'm gonna do this. You know what I'm saying? So our music is different enough, but I think people can see that common vein in the content, you know, and in the character behind the music.
It's dope, and I like the way it played out because it does all really come together
Absolutely.
on the album. Black Habits to me, right?
Yes.
And this is just kind of the fit. I've been listening to since Friday, like kind of. It's been really the only album I've been listening to since Friday. In preparation to this, but also there's a hole that it has on you, right? And to me, it's this like love story that's filled with tragedy.
Yeah.
And there's triumph, you know, at the end. And it's a story where you planted seeds. If you've been following D Smoke, you planted seeds on previous projects. Like for example, when the kids pull up, that first verse when the kids pull up, is that written from your dad's perspective?
Yes.
So you're writing as if you're your father.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the lyrics, right? Like, I got babies at home and they ain't feeding theyself. Bank ain't making no loans to a black man. It's 1987, so that crack jam. So my habit make the cash do a tap dance.
Make my cash do a tap dance, hand-to-hand exchanges. Got me high as fuck. Now I'm eager and dangerous. I could stack it up if I just hit a couple licks. I ain't no bitch, but if I get caught, I'm sure gonna miss it when the kids pull up. So that was his perspective. It's this self-proclaimed king, you know, that kind of twisted mentality of an addict. It's like I can convince myself to do this because I'm willing to risk so much just for that next, whatever that next moment is, whether it's the next fix or getting a little bit of money. So, you know, you can make something happen. But yeah, so that was that kind of, both verses are from two different perspectives. It's Pops, then it's, you know, the kids, you know, perspective. And in all of, even when we go deep with the lyrics, it's like, you know, we trying to make it entertaining. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? In the sense that like a kid is innocent. They don't even know that they're not, everything, the ghetto is heaven to a kid. You know what I'm saying? Bust open the fire hydrant and play in it. You know
That's
what I'm
it.
saying? Like play football on the concrete, two
Yeah.
hand touch. They don't
Hopping
know.
on the mattress. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
So, if I tell my story to somebody who was well off or had a silver spoon, they're like, "Oh my God, how'd you do it?"
Right.
But then everybody else who kind of shared those common experiences, they know the celebration woven through it.
Well, that's what drew me, right? Because I faced a bit of that,
Mhm.
a lot of that in my youth, and I seen my parents be addicts, and
Mm.
I used to go to NA meetings with my dad and seeing
Wow.
him go to rehab and shit like that. And I can't believe I just said it on camera because we're taught, right? We keep family business. They meant,
Yeah,
boy, that's family
private.
business. Don't go
Yeah,
talking about that.
yeah.
Did you have to have a conversation with your folks before you start sprinkling the story or laying it out?
You know what? Not explicitly. I
Okay.
mean, they're so much a part of the process that they
Right.
know what comes out before it comes out. But my parents are ministers, so
Right.
I've seen them stand up in front of crowds of people and tell that
Own
story
they truth.
with the aims of reaching somebody that might be going through it and thinking that they're alone in that. So my parents are this beautiful example of the other side of all of that turmoil. You know what I'm saying? So I really didn't have to ask permission because on so many, it's not something they're ashamed of or
Right.
they really hide.
Right. Yeah, so I never even asked my dad if he's ashamed of that shit. Like,
Yeah,
it's just funny. It's just something we don't talk about. But like, that's why these albums, or this album in particular, I think is therapeutic. At
Mhm.
least for me, and I can imagine to a lot of people that it touches. For those who just haven't listened yet, right? If you haven't, what's wrong with you? I'm
What's
looking. I'm
wrong
looking
with
at
you?
you.
Is this the camera I look at
Yeah.
to ask the same? What's wrong with
But for those who
you?
haven't listened yet, explain the premise of Black Habits because it starts with a prayer, right? And there's a very
Yes,
important child prayer
yes,
for his daddy at the beginning.
yes. So until the end of the prayer, you think it's just the happy moment, and that's or a simple happy moment. It is a happy moment, you know what I'm saying? But it's never simple, and I think that's the common thread throughout the project. It's all enjoyable, but it's never just surface level. You can go back and be like, wait, there's something to that, So it starts off with the morning prayer, which is mom getting the three boys ready for school, leading them into affirmations like I'm smart, I'm strong, I'm beautiful, and then having them pray at the end of the prayer. One of them is like, even after the affirmation, it's like, if somebody puts their hands on you, what do you do?
Sock him in the
Make them
face.
wish they didn't. And then the kid is on the side, like, sock them in the face. And these are literal memories because fighting wasn't something we would get in trouble for.
Right,
Like, it was, we were never bullies. We didn't have to
right.
be. We had brothers, but, um, but it was, you would get in trouble for not standing up for what was right or defending yourself. So that's where it starts off. And then it goes on this journey through, that bully mentality, you know, and we use it as a metaphor in no commas to go ahead and be like, now we bullies in this rap shit,
Mhm.
where it's like, all right, I'm gonna give you that energy where it's like, I'm here, I'm the one, excuse me, I'm the one for the job, no commas,
Mhm.
and so just to set the tone and then take them through that story, from like top of the morning,
Mhm.
sun kissed child. Sun kissed child is the transition to where it's like, okay, let's talk about what this family dynamic is.
That's an important record,
Yes.
Sunkissed Child. And the second verse probably stuck out to me the most, again, where you describe the relationship between husband and then speaking to you now, one of the questions was like, how much of this is metaphorical and how
Mhm.
much of it is lyrical?
Yeah.
But, between husband and wife, where the husband introduces the wife to drugs and
Yes.
addiction via crack. Um, so that was your parents' dynamic.
Yeah. That's so a lot of the second verse is just straight down the pipe, literal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's really how things happened. And me and your story is a little bit different in that you watched your parents transition from addicts, out of that into sober, people. And then but for me it was the moment right where my memories start was right when the addiction ended. And I think that was a conscious decision on the part of my mom to be like, my kids can't know me as this person.
Right.
Pops was locked up. So we knew what it was, but I never knew her in that state. So when I tell those stories, it's like, it's third person. It's like, I've had those sit downs and learned how that came about. So
Word, man. Man, I think it says so much, right? Like my daddy is a lyric, where you say calm off the ganja, but in the 80s they gave us drugs and the gun meant to spawn our
Destruction.
ganja
Yeah.
rhymes,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
destruction. Like that shit was hard.
Yeah.
But you know, the crack era
Yes.
really fucked up a community, fucked up families. And often I think when we think of the term crackhead, we see the broken down, we see the ill effects. Rarely do we hear, like, it was a common thing. Like, people didn't know. I try to explain to people. People didn't know what crack was. You didn't know
Right.
the effects of crack
Right. When it
until
hit.
when it hit.
Right.
It was just another way to get high, and
Right.
then you start to see the effects. But there's people who survive that era
Absolutely.
and can't. There's plenty of families who were destroyed, and there's plenty of families who
Yes.
survived that era and came out okay. So that's why I think your story is an important story, because most of the times we hear about the ones that didn't make it.
Right. And it's easy. Crackhead is one of them terms like you just dismiss somebody.
Right.
Like it's no longer a person, it's a zombie. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? And so, but it's so many people who have addicts in their family.
Right.
And now it's like we still talking about what an addict is. It's motherfuckers that's addicted to sugar.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But that's neither here nor there.
No, but how do you think? Okay, look, because a lot of what you did. Look, you got another song, right? Closer to God.
Yeah.
A track that you did with Sir, and
Yeah.
you know, it kind of talks about addiction. You know, almost like, I get high to get closer to
Yeah,
God, as a simplification of what the song is actually saying.
hmm
But as an educator, as a teacher, you spend time teaching in Inglewood High.
Yeah.
You're around the youth a lot. You're around a
Yeah.
lot of kids. So, there's a big fear about the drugs that's going on for this generation. And it's not crack
It's not.
anymore, but it's the pills, it's the lean.
Yeah.
What's kind of your take on what's going on now? Since you lived through it, survived, and I think came out triumphant as your family,
Gotcha.
what do you see what's going on kind of now with this generation?
I'm gonna just go ahead and say straightforward. I don't fuck with the shit that niggas be on these days. Like the pills, the lean, that shit. It kind of upsets me that somebody let that get popularized. Like, how do we do that? Because it's so lean, it's so artificial. Like weed, okay, it grows. It's a plant. We can trace that back. But then you have this artificial substance that we don't really know its full effect on somebody, and it's in music and it's perpetuated. So, as an artist, you want to be like, to each his own. What they do is what, but I don't really fuck with that. We got rappers dying and shit, and niggas still putting it in songs as if it's cool. So, fuck that shit. But I feel like I know that people do certain things for a reason, right? These are symptoms of their experience. So,
Right.
for me personally, I try to make music that gives people other outlets. You know what I'm saying? The highest compliment I've gotten on the project is that it's healing. You said that, it's soul food, something that is both enjoyable and nourishing. And I think music for generations has been that. It's played that role. So that's what I want to. That's my antidote to it. But all the pills and all that shit, I don't fuck with it.
Down the album you say, I don't need trees to get a fade. I get up like I saw police and hit the gate.
Yeah.
What made you quit smoking? Because you don't
I don't smoke no more.
Yeah.
You know what? I kind of stopped enjoying being high. Smoking, I've always liked partaking with family. It's like breaking bread. You know what I'm saying? I got
Right.
my loved ones around. I got other artists. It's like, match up. You know what I'm saying? Run it. I'm with that. I'm with, engaging with my folks, having a moment, but then afterwards, my state of mind is altered, and for me, I enjoy my natural state of mind. I invest in making sure I got a healthy state of mind. I'm an avid reader. I have conversations with dope ass intellectuals and loving people, artists. You know what I'm saying? So my natural state of mind is an enjoyable state. So when I start realizing, like, okay, even when I get high, I'm trying to get back to that place where I'm like, all right,
Right.
that's what I know where I'm at right now. So I just stopped enjoying being high. I never really stopped, and I'm not gonna front with you. I never stopped enjoying smoking with folks. You know what I'm saying? That was cool to me. Pass it. Cool.
Right.
But when I was like, okay, what's the alternative to smoking with motherfuckers? If we want to create this bond, this moment that we share, without being faded, like I don't need to be faded.
That's dope, man. Nah, I definitely wanted to touch on. That's something else I can relate to too. I stopped smoking weed.
Yeah.
it was one day that it happened and somebody just passed me the blunt. I was with a bunch of rappers and I was like, yo, I really don't have to do that. I don't feel like getting high.
Yeah.
Shout out to Buster. Buster passed me the blunt, but I'm like, you
I
know
saw
what?
Buster
I'm
yesterday
cool.
outside the studio.
Good dude.
Yeah,
Great
yeah,
dude.
yeah, solid.
Going back to your days of teaching at Inglewood.
Yeah. And I taught at other schools too.
At other
Okay. View Park across the street from Nip Shop. You know what I'm saying? I was
word.
there for a year, you know.
Okay.
I taught at Hawkins High School, you know, Westchester, you know, so I've been at a couple schools.
You was like the cool teacher though. Like,
yeah.
I heard a story. You actually did an interview with MTV. I didn't know this before, so I want to shout out my man, DeMonte.
Yeah. Domity Pongo.
Yeah, man, he's fucking dope.
Yes.
Casey Veggies was one of your students.
He was one of my students. For his entire 11th grade year, he was in my Spanish class.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So he just passed you like you was the cool teacher that you just passed mixtapes to.
Yes, I because I used to play my music in the class and I wouldn't tell them what it was. They just knew they had never heard it. You know, so say I would do my introduction, get them started on the activity, and I'm like, all right, y'all got 15 minutes for activity. You know, to me, I'm like, okay, that's about four or five songs. You know what I'm saying? Press play, put it on low enough to where it's like, okay, it's not jazz, it's not class. Oh, this hip hop. What's this? And the students like, hey, what is this you listening to? And only the ones that asked, I would let them know, you know, this is probably just something I'm working on, you know. So he was one of those. And so once he found out, you know, I do music, he was like, the very next day he came in with the fully packaged CD, shrink wrapped. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what 11th grader does that? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's a real experience. And we had grown man ass conversations early because he knew exactly what he wanted to do and was already in motion. You know, so
you tapped in, or is it somebody else we need to look out for that came from one of your classes?
From one of my classes. Oh, it's plenty, man. It's plenty. The talent is there. You know, it's I learned a lot of the lessons late, you know, to get from like just being talented, being dope, to knowing how to, you know, follow those steps to get in front of the right people, you know. So yeah, it's no shortage of talent by any means.
That's dope. And Spanish was one of the classes that you taught.
Yes.
What you talked about the subtitles
Mm-hmm.
series that you did. What made you want to incorporate Spanish into your rhymes? Like, was it something that just came naturally to you, or was it a strategy? Because it is something that gets people talking, man. And look, I'm Puerto Rican. Your Spanish better than mine.
Oh man,
you know what I'm saying? So the running joke of Puerto Ricans is that we don't speak Spanish. Like if you was born in the States,
right.
You know what I'm saying? But nah, it's dope. Like when you just break down, it's so seamless.
Thank you.
It's ill, man. Like what inspired that?
I mean, when the first time I rapped in Spanish, I was just kind of like, I looked up and I was already fluent. I was like, I'm writing raps. Let me switch. You know what I'm saying? Just it was, you know, happenstance. And then I did it a couple times, and there was a show. And it's actually in 2011, we opened up for Kendrick Lamar at Whiskey A Go Go, which is a club that is like a 400 cap, small club, but he packed it out. And his crowd wasn't really fucking with no openers except for us, like talking over everybody's performance. And, you know, when we went up, you know, we started off our shit and they were like, the crowd got silent. It's like, okay, we don't know this, but this shit is dope. So they start paying attention. And then I did a verse to the song called Overkill. The second verse, the band dropped out, beat dropped. And I was like, si tú me entiendes, te lo digo. Andar en mi zona, eso es no más suicidio. Crowd went nuts. Like, what the fuck? Right? Lost their shit. And then after that, and I probably had maybe 4 or 5 Spanish verses in the bag, but I didn't dive into at the length that I have now. But I think that moment told me like, oh shit, like, you know, not only is this something that I can do, but they don't expect it, and it's so memorable. So I just dove a little more into that. And my major in college was Spanish literature, so I had done so much writing that my approach to putting verses together is not so much from a, you know, here are some of the things that they say a lot in Spanish music. It was more so like I can tell full stories. I can express my mind as if it were more of an essay, you know. So, and that's what I think the Spanish crowd appreciates, because it's like they hear Spanish music, but they don't hear it with this approach, you know.
Yeah, it's not like, it doesn't seem like pandering,
right?
Or just like a parlor trick. Like, yo, I can rap in Spanish. Like, there's a meaning when you switch still. Absolutely. You know, even the song like you know, Gaspar Yanga, which is like, you know, for those who don't know, right, African who led a colony of slaves against Spaniards in Mexico.
Absolutely.
And that kind of, and I think especially in Cali, right, it's important between black and brown people, the unity, because there's
Yeah.
so much made about the differences
Yeah.
and the unity. And so when I heard Gaspar Younger, I was like, oh shit, that's dope. Like you kind of tying it together in a real historical way.
Absolutely. And I
And it's
never
Snoop
say
and
his
it
name.
bangs.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to Snoop. I never say his name in the song, and that's intentional. It's just more so summoning that energy, because he is a general. He led a revolution, you know what I'm saying? And the line you was talking about, oh well, no, I don't know if you mentioned it, but my favorite line off that one is aunque soy sano, no puedo decirlo de mis hermanos, si andan tirados, turn you into chorizo. Like,
Mhm.
so it was just like, even though I'm good, I can't say the same about the folks that I run with. If y'all acting up,
Right.
turn you into chorizo. So, but yeah, that's that moment where we had to demonstrate a little bit.
That's dope. Did you and Snoop, did y'all have that? Because y'all had that moment on Rhythm and Flow. It's
Yeah.
like, where you from?
Yeah.
Inglewood. Like, you know what I'm
Now,
saying?
where you from? Yeah.
Was the song already in play, or was the song inspired by that moment on Rhythm and Flow?
Yes. No, absolutely. It was definitely inspired by that moment. It it was one of those last minute additions to the project.
That's
You
hard.
know, we had several finished drafts of Black Habits that didn't have that song on it, and then once we got hold of that beat and I started writing to the beat, um, and the hook came about, and I realized I didn't have a song that explicitly was like, "Where you from, Inglewood?" You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And you got to do that. Damani, shout out to Damani from Inglewood. He was like, he had a huge song. Tell them where I'm from, Inglewood, Inglewood. Just the ring of the city.
Mhm.
When you hear it is dope. And I knew I wanted to do that. So when the hook came about, I was like, it would be crazy if we had Snoop do it because. The world saw that moment, and that's
Right.
their first like taste of like some West Coast shit coming off of Rhythm and Flow. They was like, that's a LA ass moment,
Right.
So
Nah, that's super dope, man. I love that track too. You mentioned opening for Kendrick
yeah.
earlier. Um, you've drawn a lot of comparisons to him. A
Mhm.
lot of people compare you to Kendrick with the way the music sounds.
Mhm.
Do you hear what everybody else is hearing on the surface, or does that bug you out? Does it bother you? Like, what's your take on that?
It doesn't bother me, I think there's not so much of a precedent of somebody who is both entertaining and uh really saying some stuff that causes you to listen more than once to really dig deep into the
Mhm.
meaning behind it. So like if it were some turn up shit, if it were some club shit, then it's a movement, it's a sound, you know what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
regional, but because there's so few people doing, in that lane that he walks brilliantly, that Cole walks brilliantly. It's like that box. Early in his career, he had to deal with the comparisons to like, so calling me, all the shooters be calling me Compton. So calling me Quale and Common proves ignorance is bliss.
Right.
It's just that when you don't have that amount of that your bodies of work that you've put out aren't in depth yet. They only have that way of understanding you. Like as you move along, people start to understand you more for who you are.
Right. No, I had did a Rhythm and Flow after show, and that topic had came up. Scotty Beam was hosting it. Shout out to Scotty Beam.
Shout out to Scotty
I
B.
think me, Ebro, and Karen Civil were on it, and that question that came up. Well, do you think he sounds like Kendrick? And I can honestly hear similarities
Gotcha.
in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but my point had been like, there's certain people that come and they just kind of change the sound of hip hop, and we get Lil Uzi Vert, and there's 1,000 cats that sound like Lil Uzi, and nobody cares.
Right.
And the minute we get one that may sound like a Kendrick or a Cole or somebody of that substance that you talk about, we'd be quick to cut them down, and it's like, well, let's just see how this play out real quick, because
exactly.
and that was my comment then. That was maybe immediately after you won the show.
Right. And you
Um,
definitely didn't have much to
I didn't have much to
defend
go
your
on.
stance. Right.
Yeah, but I'm like, man, I got a feeling. Let's see how this play out. And I say all that to say with Black Habits, again, as I'm listening, I started at the top of the show saying how much I connected to this album. And maybe it's just me personally, because a lot of your experience, a lot of what you're talking about is things that I went through.
Mhm.
So then right there, that automatically, like, oh, this is another thing. This is when I'm feeling this, this is what I put on.
Exactly.
And I can only put on D Smoke Black Habits when I need to feel this. You know what I'm saying?
Respect.
So, I wish you luck, you know what I'm saying, on your journey. I look forward to more music from you in a long career that we could dive into different stories, different topics, and different conversations and really find out who D Smoke is, the totality of him. You know what I mean?
Man, I appreciate that, man.
Nah, for
Yes,
sure,
sir.
man. We gonna end it. We always end the show with this one thing, man. I'm gonna ask you to rap a verse a cappella, right?
Okay.
But not one of yours, because I know you got all that. I know you just came off of Good Morning America. You got verses for days. You just rapping on Good Morning America. That's crazy.
Okay.
A verse for somebody that inspired you, something that just moved you on your come up, man. Like, you got any of those?
Okay. Yes, I do. Let me see. All right. I'm gonna go with this one. You let me know if you recognize it. Me and everything around me is unstable like Chernobyl. Ready to blow at any moment, jumping like a pogo stick. Life never lived up to my expectations, so I accepted patience. Expect the worst, but now I'm pacing back and forth inside. I'm melting like water on wicked witches. A monster truck then came and ran over my picket fences. I had the best of life in my clenches, but monkey wrenches was thrown like chairs king sit on. My prayers seemed too long. I fall asleep before the ending. Don't even get to say amen. I hope he understand. I be on bended knees. At times I think I'm crazy, then I say forget it. Or maybe it's the devil infiltrating in like Riddick. Bo, I've been fighting this since them fetus days. I count from 1 to 20. When I'm through, repeat the phrase. It's just a phase. It's going on past, but that gets old too. I'm weakening like a deacon doing dirt. What am I supposed to do?
Definitely Andre 3000.
Yeah, that's my shit, bro.
ATLians album. Yeah, man.
Yes, sir. So,
super hard, man. That's dope, man.
man, respect.
D Smoke, man, you welcome anytime. The Genius, man. Definitely look
Thank you,
forward to what
brother.
you got coming next, man. And, we wish you well.
Thank you, man. Respect. And I'll definitely be back.
Love, no doubt.
Yes,
And
sir.
to the rest of y'all, check out Black Habits. I want to have a conversation with y'all in the comments, man. So y'all know I'll be in the comments every week. What's your favorite bar? What's your favorite joint? What'd you think of the interview? I respond right back. It's for the record. Peace.